You finally got your hands on a project car. Or maybe you're staring at one that's been sitting for years. You know it needs work, but where do you even start? I'm going to try to answer that here. This is how my mind works and my process, and these techniques could potentially be applied to any project, but this is an overlanding channel that caters to gearheads, petrolheads, adventurers, and all-around cool people. So, you know, fixing things is relatively easy if you have the right tools, the right parts, the space, and a little bit of mechanical aptitude. Hey, my alternator's out. Well, go buy a damn alternator and put it in. You know, let's start, make sure you disconnect the battery, you loosen the alternator and remove the belt, you disconnect the alternator wires, you remove the alternator and install a new one. And then you just go in reverse of how you took it all out. But we're not talking about replacing things. We're talking about the hardest part of any build. You want to change, modify, revamp a vehicle. Then the question is, how do you go about that? Because we are there right now. Our process really begins with asking one little question. Why? Why do we want to change this? What are the drawbacks? Do the pros outweigh the cons? And then, can we truly pull this off?
We're so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
You know, getting stupid horsepower out of an engine is always possible. But there's also a downside. Is the engine now a ticking time bomb? If I run 35 pounds of boost, will that be bad for my engine? Well, probably. But think of the fun you'll have before it explodes. Everything we do is a compromise.
That is called a compromise.
Some can be justified, and others are just silly to do. You need to do your research. A good example of this is not thinking through if I should change my intake. You know, a lot of people do this as their first mod on their vehicle. There are some major benefits of changing the air intake to a cold air intake. The engine will have more volume. The cold air is a lot denser, which facilitates better atomization of the fuel. The problem is, even though they look cool, if you don't have a box or something around it to contain it, you're just pulling in engine temperature air. It now becomes a hot air intake. This does not help anything. It might have more airflow, but the density of that hot air under the hood or bonnet is actually going to lower your horsepower. This is why people use intercoolers on their turbos. They're trying to get that air cooler. We're tackling these concepts as we pull the engine, clean it, break it down, and then we need to come up with an attainable game plan. An engine pull is always a moment of truth. If you've done the prep right, it comes out clean. If not, well, let's just say you'll find out real fast what you forgot. I triple checked everything, missed a vacuum line, made sure there were no mystery bolts holding it in place. Remember the vacuum line. And now here it is. First time seeing daylight in years. Seeing it out of the van makes it real. This is where we figure out just how much work it's going to take. And newsflash, it's a lot. And if you're undertaking your own build, at least for us, this was the moment it felt like it was truly there. Not just dreaming about it, but actually doing it. Each item needs to be addressed, contemplated about, a pros and cons list made, and then a decision or three, depending on how things go. So I was thinking that we might want to change the water pump to an electrical water pump.
Well, why would we do that? What would be the pros and the cons?
Well, the pros is that, so the way a water pump works is that it scavenges between 1 and 4 horsepower, and because we don't have a lot of horsepower, that'd be really important to maintain as much as we can.
Right. Well, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, well, what are the cons?
Well, the cons, usually electrical water pumps are mainly used on like drag race cars or things because a lot of people say they're not nearly as reliable as the mechanical water pump. But with technology of doing maybe a brushless electrical motor, I can't really justify that it's a bad thing.
Well, is that it?
Yes.
Okay, I think it sounds like a good idea.
We need to do this for everything. Have real conversation. I found that I can convince myself just about anything, and that my plan to do X is brilliant, which is usually a red flag. My brain, my wallet, and exploiting Ali's skill set tend to form a chaotic trifecta of questionable decisions. That's why I need someone else to sanity check my ideas.
Pinwheels in my head! Voices! Angry fish!
How's he doing?
Not good.
Especially Ali. If money is involved, or she's the one welding some monstrosity together for me, she's way harder to convince, which is usually a sign that I need a little restraint, and a little reality check is in order.
Reality check in aisle 5.
On top of all this, we have a normal classic build struggles, like getting the right tools. In a big city, you've got some options. Out here, not so much. The local automotive store might have an engine stand, or they might be sold out. The nearest real parts store is an hour away. And Amazon? Yeah. It's the easy option, usually the cheaper option, but that comes with its own set of issues. Sometimes, convenience wins. And yeah, I've got thoughts on Amazon, even with us doing affiliate marketing with them, because we all use it. We all have opinions about it. It's convenient, but at what cost? Jeff Bezos didn't exactly start from nothing. His parents put in nearly $250,000 into Amazon in its early days. And once it took off, the company played hardball, underpricing books to put local shops out of business, forcing diapers.com to sell by slashing diaper prices at a loss, even using seller data to copy the best products and push out small businesses. A little dishonest, a little corrupt. So this is why I can't get an engine stand in a small town. It's Amazon's fault. But the truth is, when you're knee deep in a build, you don't always have time to drive an hour away to hunt down parts in person. You need to keep moving forward, even if that means clicking buy now and dealing with the moral dilemma later. And when possible, we do try to buy local. We try to shop small. We try to help out our local mom and pop shops because they're important. This time it's 中国制造。对不起，我说的普通话不好，非常不好。 now that our souls are tainted. If you've ever cleaned an old engine before, here's a tip. Get yourself a kiddie pool. Plus, when you're done, your significant other isn't all pissed off at you because there's a major grease mark in the middle of the garage. Luckily, I don't have this problem. Allie's up for anything, I think. This is what I tell myself. I guess that's why I married her. I definitely drew the long straw. Anyways, this keeps the mess contained, keeps cleaning up easier, and saves you from scrubbing oil stains off the middle of your garage for the next 5 years. We're using Simple Green for the bulk of the clean. It's non-toxic and it's biodegradable. The WD-40 helps with baked on grease. If you're ever working on an old engine like this, take my advice again. Record everything. We live in an amazing time. We live in an interesting time. You live in a time? I marked all my vacuum lines on the last video, so now as I pull them, I know exactly where they go when it's time to put this thing back together. And good thing, because they are all really dry rotted to hell. The coolant lines, all the connectors are deteriorating. Not sure if this is because the old owner or the last owner put the wrong coolant in. Regardless, these all need to be replaced. I even had to cut them off the water pump because they are basically fused. If you missed that struggle, check out the last video here. With those gone, we start in on the other bits and try to get it down to just the raw engine.
One million, zillion, jillion, dillion, cotillion times later.
Now, let's make it pretty. After hours of scrubbing, okay, we need more hours of scrubbing. It is so dirty. This is a 30-year-old engine and needs lots of love. We've got something that actually is kind of looking like an engine. And now we can tear it down, get the rest of the little bits off, and try to figure things out. We are trying to give ourselves a resemblance of a starting point. So here we are, the engine's out, it's kind of cleaned, and it's stripped down. This is the moment when a lot of people get stuck. Where do you go from here? Again, the key is breaking it down into steps, like we did with the water pump, asking questions, like what's salvageable? What needs replacing? What can we upgrade, and should we? Then figure out how is this all going to fit together with the other stuff you're planning. If you've been working on something similar, drop your biggest struggle in the comments. Maybe together we can troubleshoot this. And if you haven't started your build yet, what's stopping you? If you got something out of this, hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell. You know, it really helps us out. It helps with the YouTube algorithm. Watch the next video so you don't miss the next steps in the build. We'll see you on the next one.